पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोण तथा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोतीर्णाः खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजमवलं गीतार्थघण्टोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ओम ātmany-evātmanā नमः। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। Pranams everyone. Today is Shankara Jayanti. So we'll start with some prayers that one particular sloka that Shankaracharya had given for Nididhyasana. So before that we'll pray to Adi Shankara and Guru Parampara. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Then we'll do this Nirvana Shataka and then we'll start. Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham nacha shrotra jihve nacha grana netre nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayuhu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham nacha prana sayyo na vai panchakosha panchavayuhu na va saptadatur na va panchakosha na vakpani padam na chopastapayuhu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham न मे द्वेष रागौ न मे लोभ मोहौ मदो नैव मे नैव मात्सर्य भावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मंत्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम न मृत्युर्न शंका न मे जाति भेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्मः न बंधुर्न मित्रं गुरोर्नैव शिष्यं चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम अहम निर्विकल्पो निराकार रूपः विभुत्वाच सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न चासंगतं मुक्तिर्नैव मुक्तिर्न मेयः चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम चिदानंद रूपः शिवोहम शिवोहम। Pranams everyone. So we are in this second chapter. We have Sloka number 54, where Arjuna had asked Bhagavan questions on Sthitha Prajna Lakshana. He had called in a Jnani as Sthitha Prajna. And Arjuna asked, Sthitaprajñasya ka bhāṣā samadhistasya keshava Sthitadih kim prabhashet kimasita vrajeta kim. So he had asked questions on how does a jnani do, how does he speak, how does he sit, how does he walk. That was Arjuna's question. Basically we have to understand that as what is this kājika, manasa and vācika vyaparam. How does he face his prarabdha karma? How does he be with himself? And how does he deal with other people? Those are the questions that Arjuna had put to Bhagavan. Now Bhagavan is responding. Sloka number 55. Shri Bhagavan prajahāti yada kāman sarvān partha manogatan ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ sthitaprajñasya todochyate. Prajahāti yada kāman sarvān partha manogatan ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ sthitaprajñasya todochyate. So this is a very important portion within Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter, Sthitha Prajna Lakshana portion, is a very important portion. Very often it is quoted by our Sampradaya Gurus, by Shankaracharya and other Acharyas. This is the reference for them in terms of who is a Jnani. Because we will come to know the characteristics of a Jnani here. And why is it important? Because this gives us a model for us in terms of how to guide or how to, it serves as a guideline for our spiritual sadhana. All the spiritual seekers can look up to this portion in terms of taking some guidelines. Why? Because Shankaracharya says, yata sthitaprajñasya lakṣaṇāni tāni mumukṣoho sādhanāni. Whatever is a natural trait of a jnani, it will serve as an example for other people so that they can acquire those traits. And this is a very important guideline for every sadhaka. It is like this. So what is the characteristic of jnani becomes our sadhana. What is natural for them becomes our sadhana. Just like, when a child, when it first learns to walk, it sees the other elders in the family as to how they walk, so it tries to learn to walk by holding a chair, then actually by holding the wall, then the hands of elders, then with the help of a walker, and so on and so forth. So it learns. But for a grown-up person, he or she walks naturally, spontaneously, without any effort we walk. So the child looks at the grown-up person and then tries to walk like the grown-up. So what is swabhaava for a grown-up person is a sadhana for a child. In the same way, a jnani's swabhaava is a seeker's sadhana. And just to remember, even a jnani, or rather, even that jnani, he was not born with those traits. He has cultivated these traits in this life. It has come out of abhyasa. And thus he has converted these sadhanas into his swabhaava or his lakshana. Because nobody can be a born jnani. Remember, once you are a jnani, there is no next birth. So nobody can be born jnani. This is the first benefit. So what is their swabhaava becomes our sadhana. The second benefit of this portion is we can check, to see to what extent we have got the benefit out of this spiritual study. Because more often we will have this question, how do I know whether I have become a jnani or not? If I am already a jnani, I can stop coming to the class, right? Will there be any kind of physical indication in me? Will there be a halo behind my back, like Gautam Buddha? Or surely, then I can watch for it. Or will there be any physical change in my body, in my structure? Will I start growing a beard? Will it turn grey soon? Or all those things. How am I to know whether I have reached the goal? Will there be a certificate? How do I know? So this portion helps us to actually evaluate ourselves. Again, I clearly say evaluate oneself. We have to use this portion only to judge ourselves. It is not to check others. It is to understand where we stand, what needs to change in ourselves, and bring about that change. So this portion is very important for every spiritual seeker, not just this sloka, this entire portion until the end of this chapter is very important. So we will do a lot of vichara in each of these slokas. We'll first go into this sloka 55. First we'll see the sloka's meaning and then we will do a vichara. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Bhagavan answered, prajahāti yada kāman sarvān partha manogatan. Yada prajahāti. Yada prajahāti sarvān kāman. That's how you have to read it. So yada prajahāti. Yada means when. When a prajahāti, when a person gives up or sacrifices, renounces, prajahāti. When a person renounces or sacrifices, gives up, what? What does he need to give up? Sarvan Kaman. All the desires, not just one desire. I have only one desire left, all others I have given up. No, that is not considered Sarvan Kaman. When a person gives up all the desires. Partha Manogatan. O Partha, O Arjuna. Manogatan. Bhagavan is saying, where is the desire? The desire is residing in the mind. Manogatan. Manogatan Kaman. So when a person gives up all the desires residing in his mind, then in the second line, Bhagavan says, ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ sthitaprajñasya tuṣhṭaḥ. ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. Ātmani, ātmany-eva, within himself, by himself. Ātmany-eva. Ātmani here means self, within himself. Ātmana. Ātmana means he. Himself, he. Tuṣhṭaḥ. Tuṣhṭaḥ means tripti, satisfied, contented. Ātmany-eva in Tamil we can say tannidattil, within himself, tannidattil. And then Ātmana we can say tannal, by himself, he. Tuṣhṭaḥ we can say tripti adaigirano. Tannidattil, tannal tannidattileye tripti adaigirano. One who is contented by himself, within himself. Tada uchyate sthitha prajñah. Then he is said to be tada uchyate. He is said to be sthitha prajñah, a man of firm knowledge, a Jnani. So this is the meaning of this sloka. So Bhagavan has given two lakshanas of Jnani here. One in the first line, the second line. The first line he says, first lakshana is kama tyagah. Sarvan kaman tyagah. When all the desires leave the mind. That's the first lakshana. The second is triptihi, contentment. What we say, mana niraivu. That is the second lakshana. So when we have these two lakshanas, then we can call ourselves to be sthitha prajna. Bhagavan is going to give more characteristics in the coming slokas. Here he is giving the two identifiers. Sarvan Kaman Prajahāti, and then ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. These are the two lakshanas. Now we'll do some vichara. We'll try to we'll see the explanation for these terms and then we will discuss. So what did Bhagavan say in the first line? He said, when all the desires leave the mind, then one becomes sthitha prajna. Now hearing this we may get a doubt. How can even one live without any desires? How can there be a person without any desires? Then there cannot be a desire to even breathe, to speak, to live. how can one person, will he not become mad being one without any desires? This is the doubt that we make it. Now, what we have to understand is the subtlety of desires when we speak here. Sukshma of kama. In our Shastras, we use this word kama, raga as in the attachment, kama as in desires. Now let us try to understand this meaning. And the reason, and many people when they hear it as it is, and that's why they actually decide, or they actually call this, this Bhagavad Gita is not practical. All this Vedanta Shastras is not for common men like us. It is for sannyasis. It is for monks. It is not for us. It is, or even if it is only for listening. It is for academic purposes only. It is not practical. It cannot be applied in day-to-day lives. This is the misconception that we have. So, when Bhagavan says kamaha, what does he denote? Let us see. In our minds, various thoughts arise. Various desires arise. Every moment, within a day, thousands of thoughts arise in our mind. Whatever thoughts that come up, some of these thoughts or some of these desires, we fulfill them. Some of the desires we do not fulfill. Some people may say, I wanted to become a fighter pilot, but I end up doing IT work. Or some people might say, I wanted to become a doctor, now I am actually writing documents. So, many of the desires come, but not all of them get fulfilled. Or for example, sitting now, we might say, okay, I want to go for a walk after this. Now there could be a rain that comes in. Because of the rain that I will not be able to go for a walk, I decide to actually sit back and do something else. So there could be a lot of desires. Some get fulfilled, some do not. So when a desire comes, some of the desires, for example, I decide to go for a walk, rain comes, I sit back, doesn't matter. So in these cases, what happens? A desire has come, it has not been fulfilled, but that does not mean that I will be sad or sorrow about it. I will be doing something else. So for me, what is the point that I am trying to make here is, for us to get contented, for us to feel happy, satisfied and all, it does not mean that all desires that arise in my mind need to be fulfilled or realized. So, some desires are there in my mind which are very strong, and only when they get fulfilled I get happy or tripti or contentment. If they do not get fulfilled, I am unhappy, sorrow and miserable. But then there are also some desires that arise in my mind that it does not matter whether it gets fulfilled or not get fulfilled. So in other words, desires can be classified into two. One are binding desires. The other are non-binding desires. So every desire that in our mind falls into one of these two categories. Sometimes a desire starts off as non-binding desire, but because of the sankalpa we keep doing on the desire may turn into a binding desire. But the desire can be in one of those buckets. Binding, non-binding. So desire by itself is not wrong. Say Adi Shankara or Shankaracharya Bhagavad has decided to write commentary on this Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and all those things out of desire only. If he had not desired, we wouldn't have got this knowledge. So everything happens, all actions are driven by desires only. So many desires come into our mind, some get fulfilled, some don't get fulfilled. So on what basis we say that these are binding desires and these are non-binding desires? Very simple. the desires in which there is a compulsion that it needs to be fulfilled, it needs to be satisfied. Wherever there is a compulsion there, it is called as a binding desire. Then there are desires that are at a level where I can say it can be fulfilled or it need not be fulfilled. It's fine with me. Then those are non-binding desires. The desires where I have this feeling that it must be fulfilled are binding desires. The desires that are optional, whether it gets fulfilled or not, these are non-binding. So, any desire, we will be able to distinguish between them, which compels us to fulfill at any cost. The binding desires, they may even drag us down, they may even make us do certain adharma, they may even ask us to do certain things that are not acceptable. But then there are other desires which keep coming to our mind, but these are not forcing us to act on it. Now, what is the root of these binding desires? So these are some of the desires which says, our mind says, it must be fulfilled definitely. I need that kind of feeling that I have got this. Truly speaking, if you say, it is not that we have got these desires. It is the desires which have caught hold of our mind. The desires overpower the mind. They are the ones which are not willing to leave the mind. That's why in Tamil we say, ஆசை விடமாட்டேங்கிறது. We say, ஆசையை விடமாட்டேங்கிறது. Desires are not leaving me. Or we sometimes say, ஆசை யாரை விட்டுது? Who can escape desires? That's because the desires are so powerful that they have caught hold of our mind. Now let's see why the desires hold our mind. Where does that desire stem from? What is the root cause of these desires? When there is a contented mind, when the mind is contented, no desire can come out of that mind. No desire will be born out of that mind. Desire will not be born in a contented mind. If somebody says, no, I feel contented, but still there is a desire, that means the mind is not contented yet. A contented mind is called as purnatvam. A desire can come out of a sense of incompleteness only. In our mind, we see something is missing in life, and therefore the desire is born. So the next question is, where does this apurnatvam, this incompleteness come from? Where does this incompleteness come from? Until now we have used logic, now we will have to take the help of Shastras. Where does this apurnatvam come from? Shastras say the desire comes or emanates from the same place where there is a sense of feeling of I, the self, aham, I. Now the problem is, we think the body to be I, we think the mind to be I. There are some relations around us, we take them to be mine. So there is a ahankara and then there is a mamakara. We say, my relation, my family, my children. So there is a sense of I and there is a sense of mine. And because I take this body and mind to be the I when I say I refer to this body mind. So what happens? The dharma of this body and mind become my dharma, as in the features or the characteristics or the faults of the body and mind become my faults also. If I say something to be me or I, then that dharma are all mine as well. So the body's dharma become mine, and the body's dharma is, the mind's dharma is apurnatvam. I wish I was fair, I wish I was tall, body can never be perfect. The mind will never be perfect. So any imperfection of the body and mind are also my imperfections, because I take them to be I. And when I do not see myself as a complete person, I think, only when I get this job, I'll be happy. Only when I buy that house, I'll be happy. Only when I have a partner in life, I'll be happy. Only when I have children, I'll be happy. Okay, children are there. Only when I have grandchildren, I'll be happy. Oh, my neighbor has got it. I do not have it. Therefore, it makes me incomplete. He has it, and therefore I need to have it, because then otherwise I'm incomplete. So something or other, the desire comes, and what we see ourselves as apurnatvam. And the reality is, body and mind can never be fulfilled. There cannot be a perfect body, there cannot be a perfect mind. And because I identify myself to be this discontented mind, this discontented body, I feel I am discontented as well. And therefore the desires keep coming up. The desires keep emanating from this. And that's why there is no end to desire. So as we age, what happens? The object of desire keeps changing. What I used to desire when I was young is different from what I am desiring now. But there is always a continuous flow of desires. And then there are some desires that are there in our mind, which are right from our childhood until the last day of our life also. So throughout our lives, what we see, there is no feeling of contentment. And the root cause is because I identify myself with the discontented atriptikaram. Atriptikaram comes from because I have got this abhimana on this body and mind. I have identified myself to be the body and mind. So as I said, now coming to kama. So desire comes because of discontentment. Discontentment comes because of ignorance. And therefore the desire is a symptom of incompleteness. The desire by itself is not wrong. It's not a disease. Desire is not a disease. The sense of incompleteness is the problem. And how has this happened? Because I identify myself with the body and mind. The cause, and if I have identified with the body and mind, it is due to ignorance. So, because of ignorance, I have identified myself to be the body and mind. And because of this ignorance, I have this incompleteness, apurnatvam. And because of this apurnatvam, I have this desire. So we have understood that particular relation. Now we will come to Sthitha Prajna Lakshana. What is Sthitha Prajna Lakshana here? First of all, what is Sthitha Prajna? Sthitha Prajna is a person who is a Jnani. What is the Jnana he has got? He has got the Jnana that he is the Atma Swarupa. He is not the body and mind. So he has understood a different meaning for the word I. Previously, whenever we said I, he used to think of body and mind. But then once Jnana has come, it is no more the discontented discontented, contented anatma, this body and mind which he refers to as I, he identifies I to be the Atma. And Atma is Purnaha. And therefore, what happens is, for him, the binding desires leave him. Because what are binding desires? Binding desires are those desires which I must fulfill to feel myself contented, must fulfill them to make myself complete. But once I know I am complete, there are no more binding desires. And for a Jnani, he has identified himself to be the Atma, which is Purnatvam, so there is full contentment, Purna contentment, and therefore all the binding desires would have left him. There would be other desires. For Jiva Vishayaha, there would be some desires because of the swabhaava of the mind also, but none of the desires will bind the person. Remember, non-binding desires are not an issue at all. Whether a person is a Jnani or an Ajnani, if you have a non-binding desire, that is not a problem at all. A Jnani will have only non-binding desires, whereas an Ajnani, we will have both binding as well as non-binding desires. So here when Bhagavan says prajahāti yada kaman, he says all binding desires have left him. All binding desires have left him. Or we can say, whatever desires were binding to that person earlier before he became a Jnani would have been converted into non-binding desires for him after he turns a Jnani. So there will be no more binding desires. Some people have this feeling, not some people. Everyone, all jivas have this desire to live. Nobody likes to die. It is natural for all the jivas to have this feeling to live and not to die. But the same desire also becomes the cause of sorrow as we age. As we age, will I die soon? What will happen when I grow old? Will someone take care of me? What happened to all the diseases that I may get? So the desire is there to live, and the effect of the desire, which is along with the desire comes sorrow, fear, those are also there for us. Whereas for a Jnani, after that, the desire will be there. But the effect of the desire, the sorrow, the fear associated with all those desires, the Jnani will not have it. He will also have the desire to live. How long? He would say, I'm ready to live any day, any time. Does that mean he wants to die immediately? No. Neither does he have this desire to live long, forever or something. He is already living forever. Once he has identified himself to be Atma, it is eternal. For this body to live long, he wouldn't have this desire. Neither would he say, I want to get rid of this body because the body is giving me a lot of trouble. Neither would he say that, nor would he say this. He would not have any problem to live long also. He would do not mind to die the next day also. And even in terms of basic living, the next morsel of food, where do I live, where can I find shelter, do I have clothes, all those things also, he would be converting them to non-binding desires. How? Because he had identified I to be the Atma. It is this body and mind, and we had already seen that he will let the prarabdha karma take over, or maybe we will see it later. He will let the prarabdha karma take over whatever is needed for this body and mind. That is why a jnani's will is considered as Ishvara Sankalpa. Whenever a jnani wishes something, it is as though Ishvara himself has willed for it. When Adi Shankara gave Bhashyam for so many granthas, we will not call it his desire. We will say, he himself will say, it's all Ishvara's will, Ishvara's Sankalpa. So a jnani does not have any binding desires. Or we can say, a person who has no binding desires can be called as Sthitha Prajna. So this is how we have to understand Sarvan Kaman. It is not that all desires have to go away, all binding desires have to go away. Now Bhagavan has used another word, Manogatan. Manogatan. Why Bhagavan has said Manogatan? Or what is the misconception that some people have that is being clarified here? Some people say that the desire, the ichcha is, the desire comes from the Atma. In some schools of thought, the desire comes out of Atma. Atma wants to fulfill, and therefore Atma is desiring for these things. Here Bhagavan says, Atma does not desire. Desire resides in the mind. Manogatan. Desire is not the dharma of the Atma. For us, Atma is ever fulfilled. It does not desire. It is akarta, it is abhokta. So Bhagavan is clarifying here is, this desire is from the mind. How can we say that the desire is mind related? Let's say when we are in deep sleep, the mind also goes into dissolution. At that time, the Sukshma Sharira is also, we are not aware of the Sukshma Sharira also. We are not aware of the Stula Sharira. We are also not aware of the Sukshma Sharira. And at that point of time, when we are in deep sleep, do we have all the desires in our mind? Oh, I want to do this, I have to achieve that, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to get this house, I have to buy that. Nothing. There are no desires in us. There is no wish in us. Then what happens when we wake up? All the desires come back. That's because the mind is now functional. The Atma was there in both cases. When we were in deep sleep, when we are awake also. But there were no desires when we were in deep sleep. But when we wake up, the desires come back. Therefore, the desires are about the mind and it is not about Atma. Some people say the desire is not in my mind. The desires are with the objects. It is the object which is attracting me. And that is the problem, they say. That is also wrong. The desire resides in the mind and not with the object. If desires are entwined with the object, then everybody who sees that object should desire that object. If there is a particular jewelry that is so nice that attracts you, then if the desire is actually on the jewelry, is entwined with the jewelry, then every person who sees that jewelry should be attracted to it. But that is not the case. Only some minds get attracted to some objects. Some say, it is the cigarette which is not leaving me. It is the liquor or alcohol that is not leaving me, letting me go. If that is the case, then it should have attracted everyone. But it is not that everyone is attracted to cigarette. Some people find it even allergic. So the desire rests on the mind and not on the object. No object in this world can be said to have desire mixed with it. So here is an object which has got desire. No object in this world can give us happiness. No object in this world can give us happiness, or for that matter, even sorrow. That is why we cannot buy happiness from shop. Only we decide. Only our mind decides which objects can give me happiness, which people can give me happiness, which relations can give me happiness. And that too not at every time. The same object might give me happiness at one time, will give me sorrow at another time. The same relation can give me happiness once, sometime later it might give me sorrow. So it is not the object, it is our mind. It is our mind that says, this gives me happiness, this gives me sorrow. And therefore, manogatan, the desires residing in the mind. Now, the next word that we need to do vichara is prajahāti. Prajahāti. What it means is when a person gives up or renounces completely. Completely. Prajahāti. What is the difference between giving up and what is the difference between giving up and giving up completely? The difference is less like starving and fasting. When we are fasting, when we have decided to fast today, of course there could be hunger we could feel hunger, we will feel hungry, and there could be food also that is probably available, yet the mind will not think about food. That is when we are fasting. But suppose this another day, what happens is, it's not that we want to fast, but we get up late or we are held up somewhere. There's no food next close by, we are hungry. At that time what happens? Even though there is no food around us, our mind is still thinking about food. That is the case of starving. So what happens in the case of starving? We've left the object, but the attachment on the object is still there. So the attachment and the delusion in the mind, that the feeling that I want it is still will be there in my mind. That will remain. So there are some desires we will give up. But we might give up temporarily, as in we have given up, but in our mind we still have this fancy for this. We still have this want to, think about it. We still have this attachment on that object, or we still think that the object can give me happiness if I have it, although I have given it up. So prajahāti means not only has he given that up, physically he has renounced it, but he has also given up the value that he had on that object. Because we have the sense of value that this can give me happiness, this can give me, fulfill me. That value is also given up. That is prajahāti. So yada prajahāti, when a person gives up, renounces, sacrifices completely, sarvan kaman, all the binding desires, manogatan, residing in the mind, then he is a sthitha prajna. So this is the first lakshana. What is the first lakshana of sthitha prajna? When a person gives up all the binding desires completely that are in his mind, then he is sthitha prajna. Now once we have this, now we'll come to the second line. But as we come to the second line, there could be a doubt. How come if there are no desires in a person, how will that person experience happiness? Because we generally think how we have experienced happiness. We always have this feeling, I have a desire, I have a drive, I have a passion, and then I struggle to attain that, achieve that. So I've been there, I've done that, I have reached that goal, I have struggled, and I have fulfilled now. I have fulfilled the desire now. Now I am happy. This is how we have defined happiness. And therefore, if we say there are no desires, then the question of there is no desire, there is no drive, there is no passion, how will the mind be happy? That is the question or doubt that people might have. And Bhagavan says here, he will get contentment or he will get happiness within himself, without a need for another object. And this is a very important line or a very important phrase, ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. தன்னால் தன்னிடத்திலேயே திருப்தி அடைகிறானோ, one who is satisfied within himself. So even when you are not able to memorize the entire some of the slokas of this Gita, remember this phrase, ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. Somebody asks, who is a Jnani? ātmany-evātmanā tuṣhṭaḥ. This is the first and foremost definition of a Jnani. One who is contented within himself, or one who is contented with himself. See, when will we get to understand this is, in our lives what happens is, we want to live a contented life. And to be contented, we always have a condition. As in, I will be contented, I will be happy if this happens. I will be happy if this person behaves with me in this manner. I will be happy if this person behaves with me in this manner. I will be happy if this person does not ignore me. I will be happy if this person, or I have conditions for me in my mind for me to be happy or contented. And whenever the condition changes, my happiness stops, my contentment goes down. So we have a setup in mind. We have a particular situation. I'll be happy with this person only, I'll be happy with this object only, I'll be happy with this situation only. And if that person is not there, I'm not happy. If this relationship is not the way that I want it is, I'm not happy. If this object is not there, if I don't get what I want, I will not be happy. If I don't get the morning coffee, I will not be happy. If the situation changes, if I am asked to live in another place, if I am asked to move to another place, I will not be happy. All this are conditions in our mind for us to remain happy or for us to be happy. And if there is a change, we are not happy. And we have numerous conditions. There are so many conditions in our mind. That's why you say, this person, oh, he's in a bad mood, or she's in a bad mood, or he's in a good mood. What does it mean? Conditions in the mind. Our mood is basically nothing but conditions in our mind. So therefore, our tripti or our contentment has got a lot of dependencies on things around us. The things around us determine our state of mind or our happiness or our contentment. And my tripti, and especially my tripti and others' words have a lot of relationship. Somebody saying something about me will immediately impact me. How can she say something about me? How can he talk to me like that? How can this person ignore me? How can this person talk to me like that? Others' behavior, others' words influence my tripti. So there seems to be a bridge or something connecting between the situation and my mental happiness. So that is the problem. So we need to think it here. Has there been a time when there was no connection between my contentment, my happiness, and external things. Like, has there been a connection with my happiness, which has got no relationship between what others say, others' character, others' behavior, the financial situation, my environment, whatever? It looks like not. There is always a connection between my happiness and external situations. And when we say external situations, even the physical body is an external. If my body has got some problems, I'm immediately unhappy. My physical body, because of, as we age, the body will have wear and tear, and of course there will be some problems in the body, and the moment I get a problem in the body, I become unhappy, I become grumpy. So my mental contentment seems to be entwined with all external things, people, object, relations, situations, including my own physical body. So what Bhagavan says is, when this connection cuts, or when this relationship, or when this relation is removed, then nobody other than me can be the cause or can be the reason for my contentment. I am contented within myself. Nobody needs to fulfill me. Nobody can fulfill me, actually. In fact, nobody can remove my contentment. I am actually already contented. That, if I am able to de-link it, that is real independence. And when this independence comes, Sthitha Prajna Tada Uchyate, then he is said to be a man of firm knowledge. Only when a person becomes contented by himself, only then he is said to be a man of firm knowledge, Sthitha Prajna. More on this we will see in the next class. So I just want to close by chanting Totakashtakam, and then we'll ask for any questions before we call Purnamana. So this Totakashtakam is a shloka composed by Totakacharya for his guru Adi Shankara. Vidita kila shastra sudha jalade mahitopanishad kathitarthanidhe hridaye kalaye vimalam sharanam bhavashankara shikame sharanam karuna varunalaya palaya mam bhavasagara dukkha viduna hridam rachaya kila darshana tattva vidham bhavashankara shikame sharanam bhavata janata suhita bhavita nijabodha vicharana charumate Kalayeshwara Jiva Viveka Vidham Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam Bhavayeva Bhavaniti Menitaram Samajayata Chetasi Kautukita Mamavaraya Moha Mahajaladim Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam Sukrute Dhikrute Bahuda Bhavato Bhavita Samadarshana Lalasata Atidina Mimam Paripalayamam Bhavashankara Deshikame Sharanam Jagatima vitum kalita kritayo vicharanti mahamahashaschalatah Aimam shurivatra vibhasi guru bhavashankara deshikame sharanam Vidi guru pungava pungava ketanate samatamayatam nahi kopi sudhihi Sharanagata vatsala tattvanidhe bhavashankara deshikame sharanam Viditana maya vishataika kala nachakinchana kanchanamasti guru Tritameha videhi kripam sahajam bhavashankara deshikame sharanam bhavashankara deshikame sharanam. Any questions or comments before we close the class? Okay. If not, we will see again in the next class. We will continue this sloka. There is one more portion, small portion, then we will close for the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om
Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om